In the beginning of 1864, there were significant changes in the Union High Command. The most important was that President Abraham Lincoln appointed Ulysses S. Grant the General-in-Chief of all Union armies. Replacing Grant in command of all Union forces in the West was his friend, Major General William T. Sherman. Come springtime, Grant ordered 5 simultaneous offensives to press the Confederates along their whole frontier. Grant led the main offensive to defeat Confederate General Robert E. Lee, while other offensives were launched in the Trans-Mississippi, Shenandoah Valley, the James River east of Richmond, and a major campaign against Atlanta led by Sherman. Grant expected Sherman to defeat the Confederate force in front of him and penetrate as deeply as possible into the Confederate heartland. It was important for Sherman to take Atlanta, since it was the largest industrial, logistical, and administrative center outside of Richmond. Atlanta was at the junction of 4 railroads that connected all remaining Confederate-held territory east of the Mississippi River, and the manufactories in Atlanta were the lifeline of the Confederacy. Defending the all-important city of Atlanta was the army of General Joseph E. Johnston. By early July, Johnston had fallen back to the defenses of Atlanta. Frustrated by Johnston's lack of aggressiveness, President Jefferson Davis replaced him with Lieutenant General John Bell Hood on July 18th. Within days, Hood launched 2 attacks on Sherman, one at Peachtree Creek, a Confederate defeat, and importantly, the Battle of Atlanta. On July 21st, 1864, Sherman's 3 armies are separated on the outskirts of Atlanta. Major General James B. McPherson's Army of the Tennessee, facing Atlanta on the east along the Georgia Railroad, had its left flank open, and Sherman sent his cavalry to wreck the railroad further east. Hood, seeing this opportunity, decides to launch a flank on McPherson. Hood plans for the corps of Lieutenant General William J. Hardee to drop back from its lines north of the city into the main fortified perimeter on the night of July 21st. With Major Generals Alexander P. Stewart and Benjamin F. Cheatham following. Hardee's corps will march through and out of the city, southeast, then northeast, guided by Major General Joseph Wheeler's cavalry, and hit into McPherson's left rear, while Wheeler attacks the wagon trains and Cheatham will support Hardee from the east edge of the city. All in all, it is an ambitious plan, to say the least, calling for a 15-mile night march by Hardee's troops and a dawn attack on July 22nd. A late start, exhausted troops, a hot night, and dusty roads combined to bring the 4 assault divisions not nearly far enough into McPherson's rear when Hardee, already well behind schedule, decides to deploy. Then rough terrain adds further delay as Major General Walker is killed while getting divisions in place. The surprise attack, if you can even call it one at this point, doesn't begin until shortly after noon. The Federals have better luck. By chance, Brigadier General Thomas W. Swinley's troops happen to be in just the right position to meet Hardee's opening assault. Instead of overrunning hospital tents and wagon trains, Walker and Major General William Bates troops run face first into veteran Yankee infantry. McPherson, having left Sherman's headquarters just before the fire started, watches Swinley contended with the Confederates. He rides off to check on how Major General Frank Blair's troops are faring, when suddenly, struck by Confederate Major General Patrick Selborne's hard-hitting division. They were running down a wagon route, and they were unexpectedly ran into part of Selborne's line. McPherson and his subordinates dash off. Unfortunately, McPherson died in the retreat. Selborne's attack initially overruns part of the Union line. Then the Confederates run up against infantry and artillery on a treeless hilltop, occupied by Brigadier General Mortimer Leggett's troops. They are stopped cold. George Manley's Confederate division joins in the fight, but Leggett holds on to his hill. Around 3 p.m., Hood orders Cheatham's troops to launch an attack from Atlanta's eastern line of works. Cheatham's fierce but uncoordinated assaults against the federal line held by John A. Logan's troops have initial success overrunning the Union line at the Troop Courthouse until a counterattack forces it back. At the end of the afternoon, the Confederates retire back to their initial positions. The Battle of Atlanta, the bloodiest of Sherman's Atlanta campaign, is over. In total, there was 9,222 casualties. Hood's effort to roll up Sherman's left flank fails. On September 1st, Hood gave the order to evacuate Atlanta, setting fire to the 81 loaded ammunition cars, which led to a huge explosion watched by hundreds. Sherman established his headquarters in Atlanta on September 7th, though he would only stay until November 15th before he would famously embark on his march to the sea, where he would famously make Georgia howl by cutting a huge swath of destruction through the state, by destroying military targets as well as industry, infrastructure, and civilian property, majorly disrupting the Confederacy's economy and transportation networks. The Battle of Atlanta is one of the more important battles of the Civil War. It came at a time when Northern morale was at an all-time low, and they were fears that Abraham Lincoln may not get reelected. But the battle and the later capture of Atlanta gave the North a new sense of hope that the war would soon be over, and it gave Lincoln the boost he needed to win the re-election.